Okay, we're going to call the meeting for the select board to order at 7 o'clock. And Helen, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There was an echo in here.
So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for June 23rd.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes?
And make a motion to approve the minutes for June 9th, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Got a couple on the front page on the recreation department. I think what should be just crossed out is
What was that?
Where are you, Mary Lee?
under
Last
recreation department, the very last line. If you read it, I think but can be taken right out of there.
But, B-U-T. One T. Okay. Duba's in there.
And on page 3, down at the bottom under ARPA projections, second line down, we're putting short in there twice, that it's short by 15,000 above to pay. Quote should be come out of there, but that we are short by $15,000 to pay Bud Carpenter. So short should come, disappear.
Second short.
I think the second short after 15,000 is probably going to make it clear.
Do away with that second one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Page 4. Mark Brown suggested they task the Recreation Commission to come up with a long-term vision that would be that format to move ahead without input, because we're talking about naming it, and I think it should be Mark Brown, here's my handwriting, said that we task the Recreation Commission instead of saying, suggested that we already have, and putting it forward, but we've already done it rather than suggested to do it. And that's all I have.
I'm not sure if I caught how you want to
I don't think, in this case, Mark was suggesting that we task the recreation with the long-term vision concerning long-term rentals, not naming of the, so therefore, I don't know that we should really change anything except that it would be bad form, not bad format, to move ahead without their input.
It needs a comma after vision.
That was about the naming, though.
Well, you would know what you said.
Something's not right there. I agree with Mary Lee.
Format should be
And that-
changed to form, but I did suggest that we task the Recreation Commission to come up with, we had tasked the Recreation Commission
Okay.
to come up with a long-term vision, and that we should not, it would be bad form to move ahead with naming without their input.
So then the words concerning the rec center, Mark Brown suggested, or something along those lines, so it's clear what you're actually suggesting, because I was not clear.
That we take no action
Right.
until we get input from the Recreation Commission.
As far as the naming goes. Is that-
As far as the naming, yes.
I knew you could do it better than I could. You said it.
I will agree it lacked clarity because I misunderstood it.
That's all that I found on there.
Anything, Rob?
I'm good. She got it now.
I'm good.
Rob?
Yeah, I've got some things on here, and it's, on the second page on the Brown's Auto Salvage. Is that your right address? Is it Bombazine? Is that where you get your mail? Is that correct, Mark? Because your physical
That's a
place.
physical location, 170 Depot Terrace, and we get our mail at a post office box in Bombazine.
Okay, so that's why Bombazine's there, not Hydeville?
Correct.
It probably should be Castleton because Bombazine does not exist as a municipality and Hydeville doesn't either.
Correct.
The only municipality that exists in the town of Castleton is Castleton.
The other two are just post offices.
Post offices and,
Fire district.
fire districts, village centers, but they're not a municipality.
In that same, on the page 3, under ARPA projects and resolutions to carry over funds, the line below what Mary Lee was saying, that M. Jones also reviewed it should be remaining or remained, not remained of the, that doesn't sound right to me.
Remainder.
Remainder, it should
That
be
makes sense.
remainder and not remained. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, remainder, okay. I don't know why I had page 4, I had the discussion about naming the crossroad at the north end of East and West Crystal Haven. I had that started for some reason. Is it because Rob Steele asked a question and it never got answered? Is that? That's not complete there for some reason, but maybe we don't change.
Well, it is actually complete because Rob had suggested that we have involve the residents in naming the road, and Mike wasn't in favor of it, and I said we should just call the question, and everyone agreed, and we did that.
Okay.
Correct.
So there's an end to
This
that?
is actually clear,
Okay, okay.
I think. Do you
Okay.
agree, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just had a question about page 5 on below select board comments and concerns where I asked a question. M. Jones was not in today. Is that, you were here but you weren't in the office? Is that what you meant by that, Mike? You didn't know if you got messages? Is that what that meant?
I'm rereading also.
Oh, okay,
I would insert was not in the office today.
okay.
Mike was not in the office that day.
But you were at a meeting. You were at this meeting.
Yes, but I wasn't in the office to see if they notified us.
Okay,
to be
okay.
there.
That's all I had questions for, so that should be added in there, not in office. Okay, that's all I got.
Seeing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Citizens' comments, items not on the agenda. Go ahead, Tom. You gotta state your name, though.
Tom Hughes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. A brief wrap-up report, I guess, on Eden Island and Castleton. The page by itself shows that we had a $7,000 budget from taxpayers, and you see the sound cost a lot, but on the other hand, everybody could hear, which was nice. And then we had income from sales, souvenir sales, during the event. So at the bottom, what we spent was $57.81.44 out of the $7,000, which means we were $1,218 and change below the spending limit, which pleases us. There was also some odds and ends left over, mostly coins, I think about 100 coins maybe, Mike, that could still be sold by the town. The profits going back into this, I guess it would be after the fiscal year ends, but still, that means that they came back. So the other thing I wanted to do was, you know, inside the program, we had a half sheet of people that, you know, were grateful to, but I can't let this even brief opportunity go by without saying six that I just want to highlight that we're grateful to. Joe Mark, nobody will ever know as well as I do how much Joe worked on this. His creativity and hard work were just really amazing. Another Joe, the town accountant, was a pleasure to work with. He made everything easy. I appreciate his helpfulness. We're grateful to Charlie Brown, who was going to do the stage. We got rained in, so instead he put out gallons and gallons of free cider for everybody. He just really wanted to support the event. Jennifer Jones, she came out of nowhere. I mean, I knew that she was interested in helping and stuff, but to outfit herself and her husband and have all these wonderful custom souvenirs for sale, that was just, you know, live on as an extremely good example of supportiveness. I want to thank John Alexander and the Castleton Recreation Center for, 24 hours notice, agreeing to be incredibly hospitable to us. That really worked out nicely. In fact, a few people said they couldn't remember how many years it had been since they'd seen that many people in that space. So that felt nice. And lastly, various people at Vermont State University who are co-sponsors.
I was really happy when I went there to see how well attended it was, and it was an excellent program, so I thank you for your efforts, and I'm sure the rest of this board does as well.
Absolutely. We had a debrief meeting among ourselves, listing, page of what we think went well, what could have gone better. Those will be kept in a few places so that in 25 or 50 years, folks will know what we got right, we think, and how it could have been maybe even better. They don't know it yet, but I'm going to call the committee back together to talk about, I won't mention right here now, a couple of possible follow-up little projects that were maybe more or less inspired by the event. Nothing to tax your budget or anything.
Thank you, Tom. It's always a pleasure to have things come together and work well and also be under budget at the same time. That's really excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
He failed to, he's not going to mention himself because he's that kind of guy, but he was very passionate and inspired people to do this. So we also owe a big thanks to Tom, in addition to everybody else that was on that.
Well, there was a lot of inertia because when you only do it every 25 or 50 years, nobody knows what the heck you're talking about when you go to them and ask for their help. But
To get that boulder rolling takes some effort, doesn't it?
and yet you could feel in the last week or two that
But once you get it rolling,
everybody does know about this now. That's nice.
thank you again. Anything else? Mary?
Mary McIntyre, Vice President of Friends of Castleton Parks and Rec. First of all, I want to thank Mark Brown for leading the bike rodeo that was held yesterday at the Castleton Recreation Center outside. The fire department was there. There was the police department. The police department, Justin and his officers handed out bike helmets and water bottles and things like that. And I'm not trying to, I don't want to steal your thunder, but what a fun event it was, even on a hot day. It is so nice to see more and more people coming out. We saw a lot of fresh faces that we hadn't seen before. We're really starting to catch a lot of adults and a lot of younger people and a lot of families, and it was just really another fun thing. Also, I wanted to let the select board know, you may have seen it in writing. Last time I was here, I had a little bit of jet lag from that cash bash thing. That was a lot, but we didn't have the math done, but we made $34,000.
Super.
So talk about inertia. So
Yep.
now we've got inertia moving.
We have the boulder rolling?
We have the boulder rolling, but we have expectations. You know, people have expectations on us that now, if you've got this kind of money, what are you gonna do next? So the group that I've been working with, we have some plans, but a couple of concerns. We've gotta make sure that the people, that what we have is taken care of. Because we need to prove to the townspeople that when we do spend this $130,000 on that new gym floor, that they're helping us raise, that it's gonna be taken care of. You know, we've got people coming in there now that aren't taking care of things. They're not turning off lights. They're not sweeping up. They're leaving food around. They're not locking doors. You know, that's gonna come back to really bite us. And there's been a lot of people who've been working really hard at that. It's heartbreaking to me to go in and find that. I just hope that there's some support that we can get that resolved because, you know, I've reported it. Mike, I know you've seen emails from me and texts about doors being left open when you get in there on Sunday morning. That's scary with all the homeless people wandering around.
Can I ask a question, Mary?
Sure.
Who's leaving the doors open for those people to get in?
We're not certain.
You're not certain.
Well, no, because I don't live there, and I don't have access to.
I don't live there either. That's why I'm
Yeah,
asking
I
the
don't have
question.
access-
Well, nobody lives there unless they're in a closet somewhere, but.
Well, I'm not trying to be facetious, Mike, but.
Well, I have a meeting Tuesday, Mary, so that we're gonna address this, because too many keys are out there. I'm gonna be the key control person now, and I'm gonna control who has keys and who doesn't have keys, so this doesn't happen. And I'll watch the cameras from now on, because I haven't been down there to watch that, but remember, key holders can make keys and hand out to other people, and that probably's happened. And we're gonna have to be more vigilant about who gets keys, and then managing the opening and closing of the building. Because to put out 50 keys to the community is just a wrong answer. But we don't have the staff to go down there and keep opening and closing a building. So I have a meeting with the Rec Commission, Friends of Rec, on Tuesday. This is one of the topics we're gonna discuss.
I didn't mean to start anything. There's a logical answer. Who's unlocking the building so these people can get in?
Well, I know that on Saturdays, there's a basketball group that have been in there.
They have their own key?
Yes, they have a key.
Okay, okay.
We can't prove that in writing. There's no roster of like who has what keys down there.
We're going to be establishing better key control, and this is not something that we're going to resolve tonight, so can we move on,
Yep, but,
please?
I asked the question, Dick, so.
I know,
Yeah.
but, we're not going to fix that tonight, so
no,
let's,
and I'm not looking.
No, I know that, Mary. I'm
You
not-
have a responsibility when you're out there putting your hand out, trying to raise money for something good, that when what you've got isn't being taken care of is a concern. And it's a concern because that group, that basketball group, I found out when I was trying to get support for the cash bash, they haven't been paying. And our pickleball people have been paying. And I believe our pickleball people who have keys and who have lead, I think you have a lot of responsible people with keys.
Possibly. They didn't say they won't.
And I do believe that there's an awful lot that are going in there and doing a lot of work and not even saying much about it, except cautioning the next person that you want to be on the look for this, you want to be on the look for that, because this is what I found when I went in. So there's a lot of people who are really trying to make good on it, on our funds. So,
I know I'm aware of that, and I think the rest of the board is as well, the amount of effort that's going into making this work and keeping that boulder rolling.
so we want to continue that. So that is a big concern, that we want people in town to know that what we have is being well taken care of.
I agree with that. Thank you, Mary. Roy?
I don't see John Alexander here tonight, and I want to say he's done a terrific job over there. Every time I've been over there, he has a hammer, or he has something else that he's having to fix. And he's done a good job taking over an empty building in 3 years and done what he's done to get the people going in there and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Anything else for citizens' comments? No? Anybody online? No?
Any,
No hands up?
Mary Drogi, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And we're going to talk about 4th of July parade and fireworks.
They have your copy of your letter, Pete. They have a copy of that letter you had, so, and there should be in their packets.
If you want to give us a 30-second spiel, that'd be good.
There's one of the things I wanted to cover. So we have, we really got a good system going. I've got 45 entrants, 2 on shore at this point. I got a band of 3 bagpipers with a Rip Clover band out of Burlington. I found out that if we need them next year, if they want the whole band, we have to reserve it like a year. We're gonna start at 10 o'clock. I told all the people 9:45. I'm gonna put my last roster out tomorrow, actually. We have 2, so for the parade itself, it's gonna start at 10 o'clock. Traffic's gonna cut off at 10:45, both lanes. And then we're gonna have people stationed at Glenbrook and Maine and exit 5. We're gonna start the rail trail entrance, and we're gonna go down there and go up Glenbrook. I have a key to that gate now. Okay, they got a nice gate there now, so we can unlock it and open it up. The after party at the library, the group, Mary Drogi, Mary Kearns, done a great job of getting people set up for their after party events for the kids. We've got 2 small eatery trucks. Got one that's gonna do just food, and one of them's gonna just do creamies. We got the Phil Leamy band there, he's gonna be there. And that'll go for a couple hours, hour and a half, really depends on how many people are gonna stick around. And then 7 o'clock, the Crystal Beach firework party, whatever you wanna call it, is gonna be going. We've got a DJ, that same eatery truck that's gonna be down at the library is gonna also go over there, and Mike had said there's some people that, I think, what'd you say, Mike, they were gonna do? 2 girls?
They're running the concession stand there.
So we'll have some options for there, and hopefully it won't be raining, and we'll hopefully be able to control the traffic. So, we're good. I'm very happy out of it.
Do you know if British going to have the parade, boat parade? Do you know whether
I
they're
don't
doing it or
know.
not?
I
They
don't
are.
know.
They are?
Yeah.
They usually do, and I've been trying to get a hold of, if they're actually gonna be in the parade. They usually do it, but they're always last minute. Same with Glenn Mars up on East Hubbard. I talked to her today. Depends on, because everybody's got grandkids and all these different events going on, so they're pretty busy too. So, yeah, I haven't, but
Okay.
I haven't seen the post on it.
July 4th, 10 o'clock is the boat parade.
July 4th or 5th?
4th.
4th.
4th, okay,
That's a Friday, right?
yes. But we're doing everything on the 5th.
Yep.
Anything else on that?
We appreciate the effort, Pete.
Yeah, that was not work, we've got it down. We've got it down, there's a good core of us that, it's taken about 3 years to get to that point on the spreadsheet. Mike started that, so we ended up just creating the numbers.
So don't run away, you're up.
I know.
I shouldn't ask this question, but
No, you shouldn't.
I'm going to anyways, just because you said that.
Oh, go ahead. What?
Rain date for the fireworks?
Would be in September.
Okay. Not the next night?
No, the rain date's the next day, I thought.
Is it? Did you put that on the
Ooh.
thing?
I don't remember, I'm just joking. I think we told them.
That's why I asked.
We would have the rain date,
Actually, I remember
no,
asking
the rain
you
date was a
that,
Sunday.
And I actually
Yeah,
don't
rain date's
remember
Sunday.
what it was now.
Rain date's Sunday.
So there you go.
Just for the fireworks.
Fireworks, yeah, there's no other festivities.
It's not gonna rain that day, but I just wanted
This
to,
weather's been kind of crazy.
yeah, it has been.
All right, got a couple things to go over. Let's talk about the calls of service. If you look, what May, that we were up on total calls by, let's see, what we got here, 746, 757, somewhat 11 extra calls. Things that stand out. HC Assist, number 11. So those cover some various things. Some of those are supporting other agencies with calls, like if they need backup. Others are another state agency, so it's like DCF, mental health could be in there, but it depends how they do categorize it. If we're just assisting them with the process. So we have 8 extra.
I got a question on that right off the bat. Our Castleton police cruiser with some police officer was notified or saw down in Whitehall, New York. What was that all about? Can you?
Whitehall?
It was, they were halfway to Whitehall, one behind the other on Saturday.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, I'm just curious. Yep. Since you were on the agency assistant, you said other.
No, I don't complain.
Okay,
I have to do some more on that.
no problem.
They usually will call me if it crosses state lines.
Yep. There's another police officer behind him with the lights going, a white car.
How
I don't-
far were they going up on Route 4
They
or
were
on 22?
to the second, no, on Route 4. They were at the second four-way.
Gotcha.
Not the four-way past the Big Apple, the next one.
Yep,
That's where they were seen, headed south.
okay. And positively your witness said it was our cruiser?
She said it was Castleton Police right inside the car.
Okay. I'll find that out. Citizen assist, we got increased 5 of those. Increase our direct patrol, community outreach, we did a number of things in May. And we seem to be doing more and more as the year goes on. Let's see, property watches went down a little bit, because summer kicks in and most people are back in some of their places. Motor vehicle complaints, you're gonna have more of those because of warm weather. People, whether it's a BOL for a vehicle that's squealing tires or driving erratic, so that's what those really are. Mental health, we were up 20 and 3 more in May, and let's see what June looks like. And let's see, nothing else. Suspicious persons, that's all right, summertime. And that's it. Any questions on the service calls?
I got one, of course.
Yeah, what is it?
Do you have a certain person you call when you have a mental health issue? Is there a certain agency or a certain?
It depends on the time of day. During the day, there are vetted mental health workers. There's one at the barracks. There's one in Rutland City, which we don't use. They're strictly dedicated to Rutland City. Sometimes we can get the ones that are vetted at VSB, because they'll go get them. If they're out on something, they'll come out. That's not too often.
You guys can handle pretty much.
Well, most of the time, we try to get, we know who all they all are, that's the problem, with the exception of this last one we had that created a nightmare for about a week.
Okay.
And we've been able to just do enough, whether it's finally get a mental health warrant, the one on Blissville, which takes a lot of time, and I know I've talked about that in the past, so no, there's nothing, no in particular. And if it's after hours, you just gotta call crisis. And most people that are in that state, manic state, that's the last person they want to talk to.
Yep.
And I'm not joking because it's funny, I'm just saying that's usually when they get to that state, that's where we have to go in, when they get manic, when they've been off medication, and they're just not following their prescriptions.
Obviously, those cases have continued to climb,
Yes.
and I know that they're really labor intensive. You have 2, 3, 4 officers for a day.
Well, I'll just give you an example. Last Wednesday, it was Thursday. Justin Dodge, I had a call in debt because he dealt with a slew of things that night. It was crazy. The one mental health case that everybody's talked about in town, that's on me off Elm Street, that he's no longer there, obviously.
these folks being placed here?
Now, you gotta understand, part of the issue is you gotta follow their mental health protocols. He wasn't technically in violation of any criminal law, he just was being a nuisance and kind of intimidating people just because he was a big guy, kind of racked out. But every time we dealt with him, very compliant. Trespassing for like 8 businesses. And then when he finally actually lost it, and then that's how it started everything else to go. Then I had extensive conversations with the landlord. And that's one thing I got to probably push a little bit. I really need to set up, I don't care if it's 2 meetings a year. I know all the landlords that have a lot of tenants. I like to get them to talk about some of these issues because some of them I can call, like John I can call up, I can call Robert or Tori. I know this one over here, 2137, that's changed hands because the original owner's passed away and now that's given down to another person. So I know most of them, like they just sold the Pinks down here, we call them the Pinks, the one on Blissville, is a new owner now. The prior landlord, I could call him if he had issues with any tenants in there. And that works well. And when my officers can have that capability, because some landlords don't put the effort in doing the background, and they just want people just to come in and fill a slot. That's the worst thing. So.
So you're gonna have meetings, or you have had meetings?
No, I can talk to most of them, but I'd like to be able to at least, whether 2 times a year, I'm not looking for every month. Usually I try, like I try to talk to the Railings when because they do, and Christine Smith, when they do all the tenants that really handle all the off-campus students. I deal with that separately. You have to talk to them. And most of them are pretty good. They're pretty good with their tenants. There's a few, but it's the other ones that I don't keep contact with all the time.
If you have those meetings, would you let us know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna talk to them. I mean, it'll be, phone line stuff, but I will hopefully, if we can get 2 times a year, like fall, end of August, and I would do after May, so maybe like June. Those are the 2 cycles. We deal with 2 different sets of tenants.
Sure.
Seriously.
With this kind of issue, it seems like it's really increased a lot, and it takes
It has.
tremendous amounts of police resource, and some of these
Absolutely.
folks have been really dangerous and are posing serious risks for the community.
It's definitely taxes us for sure. Because you can't go in there with just one officer. And then you don't know if they're going to get the backup from other agencies, because the state police can be really busy at nights, and they can't have some of these systems.
And this isn't unique to this Castleton, it's a statewide or nationwide?
I mean, looking statistically, I think part of it, I think there's a couple factors involved. I think because of our mental health system is broken in some ways. We don't have long-term residential. We all know you can't force people to take medication. So once they leave their short-term care, they don't feel like taking their meds. It takes them about 3 weeks to get in that manic state. I mean, I personally took it upon making sure Dean, I take him to get his meds, his shots every month, and he's okay with that. Because I don't trust, because I know what happened last time. I don't trust, and he's got enough trust in me for him to do it, because he could just say, I don't need him. And then what'll happen is it'll turn out like what happened the last time, where we, take 4 officers up there. So, we shouldn't be doing it, I agree. But I took it upon because we probably got, well, now we got 2 less. Still got about 5 to 6 other ones out there living. And ones that we own. That's mental health is a huge thing statewide anyway. They can't figure out how to fund it. They're putting it on the hospitals, 7 days. We got Brattleboro down, Brattleboro Street down south. You really don't have anybody else. But but that's a whole legislative issue.
Well, let us know if there's anything we can do
Yep.
to help.
Absolutely. Let's see, arrests, we actually came down on arrests in May, and from 12 to 7. Couple of warrants, nothing really stands out. Couple of Ds we had in May. Aggravate domestic, nuisance and release. Yeah. And that really depends on, I'm trying to think on the warrants. I think 2 of those may have been involved with, one of them that, traffic violations, we tried to increase those, although we've been busy with calls, like, no, we dropped it down in May because of that. So anytime we're busy with calls, that's it. Then I had people call me and say, hey, you know, people are speeding. We did get those 3, I know you know that we have the 3 radar signs. Justin's been in contact with Evan up at Department of Public Works to get the right posts. It's just a matter of setting up and scheduling, putting them in. We want to put them in right, height. Can't put them on state highways. You know when we had it down here on Route 30 south? Well, I got a call from the, I could see his name, I could see.
Jeremy?
No, it wasn't Jeremy, actually, he was fine with it. The guy above him that checks all the right-of-ways and everything, he called me and said, oh, you know, that's like a $1,500 fine putting that thing there. I said, what? Oh, yeah, you gotta have it like so many feet, you can't put it on state highway right-of-ways. So we had to take it down. So when we put these in, we could put one on Main Street, we have to put them in on our roads. Like maybe Drake, Creek Road. You can't put them on Route 30. We can only do the village,
We got East Hubbardton,
can't do 4A,
North Road,
East Hubbardton.
South
So that's
Street.
where they're gonna have to go. 3.
Can you put it outside the right of way on the state highway?
They won't be effective, Charlie, because it'll be too far away on the angle, the way the radar is.
So that their right of way is only, actually from the center line of the road to Route 30.
Well, I didn't want to get in an argument with him and say, you know, I didn't know. He said, you got to move them, so I moved them. So he's, you know, when I talked to Jeremy afterward about it, he said, oh yeah, they're nitpicking. I said, hey, I understand. So, anyway, what's that?
well, they gotta get programmed, Justin has to get them programmed. But it's on the agenda, so we're gonna come up to it about, talking about 2 more anyway, so.
You have a question?
No, I'd like to thank you for having the guys and gal in the village, because that speed limit is 30, and our village fortunately is very busy in the afternoon with all the businesses down there, and it's important to control that speed limit.
We're probably gonna put one of the movable cards, if there's only 2 of those, on your part. Because we've had a couple accidents down there, and that intersection is just horrible anyway. Crazy stuff was on that intersection, so we really need to have something down there, so. And I know you'll give me permission, right, Charlie?
That's
I'll
what I'm saying.
figure where to put it.
Route 30 is only a 4-rod right of way, so it's 33 feet from the center line back. It's not very far back off the center.
Okay.
believe it or not. They don't own, we own to the center line of that road. Our right of way is owned by the landowner. The landowners own it. The state has a right of way across this. Every road in the state of Vermont that was built before March 5th of 1970 is owned by the landowners. Every road, county and state. They do. They don't want to know who you know.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, calls of service, university. We had, obviously that was the big graduation in the first 2 weeks. We had like 13 of them. Couple directives, fire department assist, intoxicated person, noise disturbance, service or restraining outdoor student there, couple traffic stops on campus. Did you get any headway out of that, Mike? Was that up north? About the letter you sent out?
No. Nothing yet, anyway.
Backup provided by, and then backup provided to us, if you look on that page.
So when you go to Pulteney, you're either assisting Rutland County Sheriff or VSP?
Correct. They had a guy last night, because our officer stays on the 4th, which has really helped out with thefts, which that's been a huge plus for us. Is, although he had another burned out car, ended up on Spenceley's laying up in East Hubbard Road that was stolen from Shoreham. That was Saturday. Saturday morning. Right. So the one that he had this morning, as I looked, I said, how come you're still on? Because I came on at 5. And he said, I had Lake St. Catherine called the warden down there who assigned that area. There was a guy walking around in there with a machete. So he called my officer, and I would authorize it. Yeah, let's go down there. Bring it in if he needs it. Take it down there. The guy was already sleeping. I don't know. They didn't deal with it at that point and just came back. Because after 2 o'clock, we're the only one in the county. Well, I should say the county, you got Rutland City. That's it. 2 to 4. All right, let's move on from that. I know in your packets you've got Justin, myself, and I brought it up to Mike. We'd like your permission for us to finish the application on this COPS grant that's due on July 1st. If it's awarded to us, we don't have to take it. We have 5 years to use it. And it's a 75% match. Or 75%, then we pay 25.
That would give you the ability to add another officer?
Possibly. Possibly.
And it would cost us 1/4 officer.
Correct.
Who pays the benefits?
Well, they covers it. So they cover 75%. So let's say you had an officer where we kind of figured it out. I kind of just threw some numbers out here. And this is something that's down the road. This is just us so that we want to get that deadline in. If we get awarded it, you don't have to use it. If the town says, or you guys said nope, then it just goes. Let's say with a benefit package and the rate, which includes FICA, pension, workers' comp, insurance, and so on, it would be a $99,620 package, right? 75% of that is $74,000. 25% is $24,900, almost $25,000.
What would that do to your overtime budget?
Well, that's a good question, Mark. So right now,
Because there's our match.
yeah, because of the fact we have been doing a lot of overtime, huge. Part-time budget for our overtime is $13,717. Our overtime right now, we've spent $36,000.
So far this year.
Yeah.
So we're talking 70,
I don't know if it get to that much, but it could be.
if it continues.
The stuff that's continuing on, with the mental health and all this other stuff going on, I don't know. There's no easy answer.
Right.
There's no easy answer with it.
My opinion is you should proceed with the grant application.
Absolutely.
And then if and when you're awarded the grant, then this
Then
board
that's
will
when
have to
we-
make a decision.
Correct.
And we'll figure out where the funding's coming from at that point. And I think your point about overtime and, not replacing a part-time officer or something, there's options to do that without destroying the budget. So if the board's consensus is for them to pursue it with a grant, then I think we should ask Pete to go ahead and do that.
I don't know,
We need a motion, do we? We just go do it.
Just give us permission.
We need a motion?
I don't think so. I think we can just authorize
Wow. You got a question?
I do. If we are awarded the grant and we go ahead with another officer, is this like the last grant where it's good for 3 years and at that 4th year, we've got to pay the full package?
No, it's 75 all the way. It stays at 25, 3 years.
Okay, but at the end of that 3 years,
No, there's nothing in there for that, not for this one.
So at the end of that 3 years.
When I first came here, we were on a grant with one of the officers here, and the 4th year, we had to pay that final year.
yeah, we had to decide whether we're going to keep the officer, and if we were, the town pays the whole kit and caboodle.
So this is just a 3-year grant.
Okay. But it's set up the same way.
It is set up.
Oh.
The only difference is that, and I asked Justin, because he had attended a webinar for it, is that 25, so it's every year. Originally, I thought, well, okay, so they give us, what was the total? Let's see, 100
126 or something, I think it was.
126 or one total? No, I'm talking about the entire grant total was. Could we use that for 2 years and then pay the last? So you're going to have to do the 75, 25, 75, 25, 75.
For 3 years.
Yeah, and that's a
Okay.
whole different discussion, and I don't want to get too deep into it.
No.
But,
And if we add another full-time officer to our roster, then in 3 years' time, we have a decision to make.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, we may not get the grant, so let's do the grant and then have the discussion.
It's not a heavy lift to request to apply for the grant, correct?
Absolutely.
Then let's do that, and then as things progress, we'll make decisions.
Okay.
So we want to talk about speed, solar-powered speed displays?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier that we gotta keep them on town roads for the most part, and we gotta decide on 3 locations where we want them permanently. I mean, technically, we can move them to another post, but it's a little, you gotta put some work into it. Gotta make sure nobody can just take it off the post.
This is for the additional 2, that's on, what's on the agenda.
Well, we,
Oh, that's right, the additional 2.
does this board want to weigh in on where the first 3 are going, or do we want to leave that up to the town manager and the police chief?
We have a good idea. We wanna put one on Main.
I think that,
Main, Blissville, and Creek Road before it starts getting, by Woodards, before it starts getting into the curvy, windy part of it.
And then the other ones, we get those other 2, it would be East Hubbard, which we get complaints on that one, and Drake.
so my opinion is, you're the police chief, you're the police commissioner, we'll stay out of your way. The other 2, is that we also, do we need to make a motion to approve these, or decide not to purchase these? What's this request here, Steve?
There's a purchase order there. If you decide to approve it, then I'd ask that you sign the purchase order, because we're getting to, it's in the resolution for the end of the year's budget stuff, so we're kind of at the end.
Where's the money for this?
What's that?
Where's the money for
Out of
it?
the constable's budget.
It'll cover both of them.
And
Unused funds.
and the light bar.
Okay.
And there'll still be like $3,000 something left over.
So by the end of the meeting, you'll know whether or not to proceed with ordering these 2,
Okay.
okay? Roy, thank you, Pete. Thank you, chief.
Yesterday, yesterday afternoon, there was an incident that was pretty vague. Could you fill us in on what happened? It involved Colonial, Fairhaven, and Castleton.
You mean this morning?
Uh,
This morning?
I believe it was just Sunday afternoon. All, state police and Castleton and Fairhaven police departments.
I did look at the, got burglary reported on Saturday. I had called off an accident on Saturday.
There's a missing persons.
Well, the missing person was this morning.
Are those the carts that are?
No, they're the permanent ones on the post when you drive into like the village, and the sign tells you gotta slow down.
Okay.
And I
We
know
got
they-
3 of those already.
We already have 3.
But
This
add
is be
2?
2 more out of size unused money.
Okay. Oh, I just had a question, Pete. Do those that go on the post, do they record anything? Like if I go up there 75 miles an hour, can you go to that thing and say, oh, a car went by here at 75 miles an hour?
Yeah, it won't be like those traffic counters that you see on the roads a lot with it, like they do data for like a month.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it has that capability for that minimum period. It'll just tell you speeds of cars, and won't give you pictures or anything like that. It just tells you what the average speed.
But it tells you that they're generally doing 45 miles an hour. Okay, that's all I was looking for.
You gotta download it, click my SD card.
Okay, yep.
Municipal Program Manager. Mike?
The contract, we've been discussing this for for like a while, actually. This is the MPM for that pedestrian accessibility project in the village. So we could go, you could take several different routes to get to hiring an MPM. One of them was V-Trans at the ready list, so those are contractors or engineers already been vetted. They don't have to be an engineer. It doesn't have to be an engineer. But this is Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Stephanie Burke in particular. They've done these before. They're very well versed in it, and what I found out is they're a little more attentive than the engineering firm that we hired, like that they reside in Milton or Burlington area, and she's local. I mean, closer than that. So I'd recommend that we just go with them, and all they're going to do is oversee the project to make sure that we get what we're paying for. And this is a big project. This is that $1.2 million project. So, and there's a lot of intricacies with it, with the paving. V-Trans is going to pave the road. Then we got utilities. We got stormwater projects going on. So this is very involved. So having someone that's local and can spend the time here rather than one day a week coming down from Burlington is what I recommend. I don't know who this is. Rick Kelton.
I probably don't have to ask, but she's qualified to do this.
Yeah, so V-Trans, we had to vet her through V-Trans, and they sent the letter back and said
That's all good.
They said good to go.
So what do you need from us? Like, do you need a motion?
Yeah, well, just to authorize me to sign this contract for the municipal project manager services for the pedestrian accessibility project in the village.
I'd make a motion that we authorize Mike to sign a contract for MPM services with Rutland Regional Planning Commission for the Castleton Village Designated Center Pedestrian Safety and Accessibility Improvements.
Moved and seconded to authorize Mike to enter into an agreement with Rutland Regional for the project management for the village. Is any more discussion?
Just for the record, I believe it was $50,000
It is.
Yep.
was the amount of the grant, or the contract.
Does this seem to be in line with other projects that we've had done as far as I mean, I know we haven't had one of this scope, but their price seems to be reasonable.
They're lower.
I thought this was very inexpensive for the size of the project,
Yeah.
considering some of the ones we've been through before.
Yeah, I've worked with them before, with
Yeah.
hers particularly.
You're
and
right, Mike, or Mark.
She holds you to task, that's for sure.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I know you put a lot of work into this project.
Love to see this one come
Yeah.
to fruition, that's for sure.
Discussion for the townwide reappraisal to address citizens' concerns. Charlie, I read your letter, or Mike sent me a letter based on your conversation, so if you'd like to approach the board and
So,
I just,
Charlie, can you come, you can bring a chair or sit at the table if you like, but you need to be closer to the Zoom mic so that the audience can pick you up. You're welcome to sit right there if you'd like.
if I can see it here, good enough. I'm just curious, know who paid for this reappraisal? Where'd the money come from to pay for this reappraisal?
The lion's share of it comes from the state, but you'd have to help me answer that question.
that would be correct. So the money that the state pays each year was used, and there's a shortfall. We didn't have enough to cover all of it. So at the time that the board made the motion about where the money comes from, it was a discussion about us being mandated by the state, and that we'd find the money somewhere in the budget to pay for it. And that's how it was ended.
But isn't it like 90% of it came from the state?
So isn't that a little, 90% of the money came for this reappraisal. It happened because of COVID, because that's when they really started coming here.
85% of our tax dollars that we pay today goes to the state of Vermont. So isn't that shouldn't that have been a red flag when the state said you gotta do this?
Well-
And they're gonna pay for 90% of it? We are the state of Vermont, all of us people. But it isn't working out that way.
Well, I think that the attempt, if home sales, if homes are selling on average for, no, let me back it up the other way. If the appraisals are 70% or less than the selling prices, then they mandate the reappraisal. Which I understand there's problems with it, but it makes sense too that over a period of 10 years, not all the property in town has appreciated at the same level. And it's just an attempt to make sure that it's fair.
Well, in the 80s and 90s, then 90s and the 2000s, 2 times in my lifetime in that area, this has happened. We raised assessments and then everybody was underwater. If you remember back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, how many banks local banks went bankrupt because they were loaning money at this high rate, and then all shit hit the fan, and all the little banks went out of business locally. Rutland Savings Bank, Marble Bank, Proctor Bank, First National Bank in Fairhaven. All these banks went bankrupt because of this.
You're absolutely right,
And
but I
everybody
think,
was underwater.
but the impetus was a little different. That was the subprime mortgage crisis, where it wasn't so much the property values hadn't gone up, lending institutions had reduced the threshold for borrowing money. So a person that, prices were a lot different then, a person that was bankable for $75,000, all of a sudden, they would loan them $150,000. So people were spending more money, they were buying more house than a practical person would have said they
But it
could
drove the
afford.
price of everything
And it
up.
drove the price up because
Same
you're,
thing as it's doing right now.
because your average home buyer all of a sudden could buy way over their head. And you could see that coming a long ways away. You know, a family that could afford a $500 a month mortgage payment, all of a sudden, a bank is giving them a payment that's $1,000 a month. There's no way they're gonna be able to keep
I
that.
don't think these banks are gonna loan people money now to buy.
And to make it worse, they were giving home equity loans at 150% of appraised value. And, you know, people hear what they want to hear. You know,
You don't
all of a
think that's gonna
sudden,
happen again?
I don't. I think this was different.
So you're telling me, Mark, that when you see a double wide in the town of Castleton, that's probably worth, on a pad, okay, that's probably selling for $200,000. That home probably originally cost for $50,000. Now, if I go to an insurance company, any insurance company, you got a double wide, they won't give you insurance on that for that amount of money because it's not worth it. But yet, our appraisers are telling us that these properties are worth that. But you
They're
can't
telling
buy
us-
insurance on them.
They're telling us fair market value because that's what they're selling for. In fact, a new double wide now is $180,000. Arriving on your lot, you know, it's,
So I just priced because I knew you were gonna say that, so I just priced a 2-bedroom, double wide, modular, on a foundation, is $105,000. A 3-bedroom is $125,000 to $135,000, depending on what you wanted it for a kitchen. So I don't know where you come up with them numbers, but
well,
I just priced it.
if you
Just to
add
see.
the property, the water, and the septic to it, you're over 200.
Well, it costs you to get a state permit now, and a town permit, it costs you close to $5,000 to $8,000 just to get your permits now. When you go through Act 249 and Act 250, if you gotta go through Act 250, it's even worse.
I
So-
agree that the prices
So the state of
are,
Vermont, who is creating all these problems, is telling us that we've got to reappraise, but yet they're making that higher price on all these homes because of what it's costing us to get a permit.
So, Charlie, let me ask you a question. So we can't undo the reappraisal. That's done. You know, we can't roll that, no, let me finish my question before you answer it. But, so my question is, what can you tell me that would convince me that we don't have a good product from our reappraisal firm?
Did Mike show you, did you get the information from Mike?
The one about the lawsuit?
What I understand, there's lawsuits going on?
I didn't find any in the Northeast specific to this firm and lawsuits. This one is in Kansas. I did talk to the two other towns or municipalities in the state that use Tyler technology for a reappraisal this year. And both of those towns, that's St. Albans City and the town of Hartford, and I talked to the town manager in Hartford, and I talked to the select board chair in St. Albans town, not the city. And they both assured me that they are convinced they got a good product. Their average increase was 1.81 in Hartford and 1.89 in St. Albans City, and ours is 1.68. So we're in line with the other two municipalities that I checked on. So at this point, I'm not convinced we have a bad product.
But did they bother checking any deeds for covenances or anything like that?
I do not know. I do know that Hartford.
That wasn't part of their contract.
Hartford had some of the same tribulations that we had, and they implemented similar methodology to what Mark did for us with Tyler to get those resolved. So I think that the town of Hartford at least put the same level of scrutiny on their reappraisal that we did on ours.
So their reappraisal assumed that everything on the property card at the town office was correct. You know, as far as covenants, wetland, all that sort of stuff, correct? They went out and did a market study.
I can show you parcels of my land that
No.
they never looked at. They never looked at not one of our parcels of land. They never showed up at one.
Okay,
So they took a picture, they did it from the road.
let me address the first part though. You know, that part of their contract was not to go look into the deeds for covenants. That it's assumed that that was correct from previous work. They were supposed to visit every property. And early on, we had a meeting with them and had some higher up officials come up here because they had told us they were nearly done and that they had knocked on every door in town, and that absolutely wasn't the case.
Still isn't.
And we had a meeting and they went back. We required them to do the entire town over. And part of that agreement was they had to stop at every home, and if nobody was there, they had to leave a door card. And I followed up with around 100 people to see if that had happened, and everyone I talked to had, except you said that you had some folks that hadn't. And if that's the case, you know, they should come forward and talk about it, because we are paying a lot of money for this service, and we need to demand that it's correct, for sure.
Absolutely.
You know, that, you know, I had a positive experience. They came to my house. I called them early on because I wanted to see what kind of work they were going to be doing. And they came to my house and they, you know, they use a laser measurement now. So they stand there in one place and shoot the gun. They check the dimensions. I wouldn't say they're checking it to the inch, but if the card said the house is 30 by 50, you know, they're roughly checking that. They note.
You're thinking that they did that to every house in town?
In their contract, that's what they're supposed to do to every house in town. So if there's people that haven't, you know, I would like to hear about that, because that's what they're required to do by their contract, was to measure every house, make sure that that's accurate with the card that's on file from the previous appraisal, and ask for, if a homeowner's there, ask if they can go inside. And of course, you don't have to let them in. And if they didn't get in, to leave a door card saying, if you would like to have the interior of your house appraised, to call and they'll come back. So, yeah, if they're not doing that work, we need to know about that, because we did hold their feet hard in the fire over that, and they went back and supposedly did that all over. Obviously, we can't go behind them and check every one, but I have called a lot of people to make sure this was done correctly. I agree, you know, it's shocking to see the way prices have gone up, but they have. I looked at, seems to me there were only 5 homes in Castleton that were for sale a couple weeks ago when I looked. And the day after the new reappraisal came out, all the homes that were listed for sale were still listed for substantially more than the reappraisal. You know, I saw properties on the lake that had gone from $350,000 to $650,000, but they were on the market for $750,000. So, not from a moral standard of where our economy should be, but from the standard of they're supposed to determine fair market value, I'd say they were right there. I'm not saying they stopped at every house, you know, but if people haven't had that experience, and there were emails sent out that people should expect that, and to call if they had not seen an appraiser. And I don't think we've had any of those. I know Mary Jo, I've checked in with her several times to see if that's happened, because for sure, in the beginning, it was not happening. You know, they came and said that they were pretty much done, but they had only done interior inspections on 20% of the homes in town.
23.
23, and they claimed they had knocked on every door, and that wasn't true. So we called them back in, and we had a heart-to-heart, and they brought more people in, and from that point forward, you know, I believe that they're doing what they're supposed to do, which does not cover covenants on the deeds, river corridors, anything like that. It's all assumed that was accurate on the card at the town office.
How
And
could that have been assumed that it was accurate when a lot of these laws that you're talking about have just got into place in the last 2 years or 3?
we could have requested more services, but, you know, it was $250,000, $275 for what we got. I mean, we could have hired someone to come in and spend, you know, half a day on every single property and do a complete legal research of it, but we wouldn't have done it for $275. You know, everything is a compromise. You know, what should you have? What can you afford? Essentially, they're doing the same type of mass appraisal. They're doing the same type of appraisal that a real estate agent would if you called them up and said, hey, I want to list my house. What can I get for it? And the real estate agent comes over and compares it to some other properties and says, this is what I can sell it for. Certainly, it's not doing a title search or tracing the deed back. It's not a bank appraisal by any stretch. I think if you get what does the bank charge for an appraisal now? $700? You probably know.
Anywhere from 5 to 7.
5 to 7. And if you times that by the 2,000 properties that we have, you know, that costs.
Well, I would hope you get a better deal than if you were just doing one.
When we looked for, I wasn't on the board then, but I read the notes. When this was put out for bid, there were only 2 companies that gave proposals, and one of them couldn't start for 4 years. I think it was 4, wasn't it? It was a crazy long
I think
period
you're
of
right.
time.
So I think we'd have been better off if we'd have waited for the 4 years, because by then things would settle down from COVID. And we wouldn't have the high prices that we have. Right now, what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a lot of people that have lived here all their lives that aren't gonna be able to afford to live here anymore. And it's not gonna be a pretty sight. That's what's gonna happen. Up until 1980, and you know this, Mark, you've been in business since 1977 or 78, if people made $150 a week around here, it was big money. And now, these people, their retirements are nothing.
Right. Minimum wage was $1.60 an hour when you and I started going to work.
Exactly.
Inflation has been very, very painful.
And what's gonna happen is my family's been here for over 200 years, and I hope my family can stay here. But there's a lot of people that have been here as long as we have, and they're not gonna be able to stay here. They're on fixed incomes. They worked all their lives to get here. And now their properties are worth more. Their taxes will be worth more 1 year than what they probably paid for the property when they bought it.
And remember, the town share of the taxes isn't gonna go up.
I know that. Town share is roughly 24 or 25%.
The,
in
the,
that area.
the state part,
But you gotta
we don't
remember,
know.
You gotta look at the picture here now. I'd also like to ask the question, now I understand I was told by another town official, another town, that the state of Vermont, all the Velco and the power lines, that we now collect taxes on in our town. Okay, we collect their taxes for that. I understand the state now is taking that over, so I think you should check with our lister, or whoever's in charge in that office, and find out if that's true. I was told that Velco and the power lines, all their assessments dropped. How could that happen? Is that true? You guys know that? Mike, you know that? Anybody know that?
I asked Mary Jo that question. Her response was that the state's gonna take over most of the utilities, solar and everything. So she did not know their formula on how they were going to, what they were gonna pay the town.
So that's a very important thing that this select board should know, because that's gonna make everybody's taxes. This particular town that I talked to, selectman in this town, told me their taxes for every $100,000 home was gonna go up $300 because of the money they were losing from that. That's going directly to the state. So this board has to stay on top of that stuff and make sure that you find that out and understand that, because your assessment or your grand list is gonna go up, probably maybe double maybe in this town, the way it's going.
61%, I think it went up.
But your tax rate, I'll guarantee when they say it's done, taking away all the other and adding in all the other stuff they want, our taxes aren't gonna go down. Maybe a year or two, but then we're gonna pay the price. And this board needs to know what we're losing in revenue that the state's taking away from us,
You're right.
if it's true.
Mike said he's got Mary Jo on that.
Yeah, she didn't have an answer for me at the time, but she's going to training on it. The state's putting out training for the listers.
You know how the state is, they legislate one thing and then they decide later how it's gonna get paid.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying, that's where we have to be vigilant and make sure that everybody can afford to live in our town.
You're right, that's a serious concern. You know, our legislature has overspent year after year after year. And they're good at, there's a lot of problems in society everywhere, and they're good at throwing money at it that don't necessarily fix it, right? $50 million a year for the hotel voucher program, and we have more homeless people. You know, they come up with a lot of programs that are wasting our money. I absolutely agree with you on that.
All I'm asking for is that we try to do the right thing in our town. And we try to stop this stuff. Like tonight, the Regional Planning Commission, you just said that you're gonna give part of the job to them for overseeing what we're doing.
Oversee it.
So, but they're also, I was here a couple weeks ago at another meeting, and they wanna take over our town, their zoning and planning. And, I mean, where's it gonna stop?
Well, you and I look at that differently. You know, I'm skeptical of everything that they do. I'm skeptical of everything that is legislation. But I don't think they wanted to take over our town. Under certain circumstances, they could exempt Act 250 from certain projects in certain parts of town.
I Act 250 is already exempt.
So,
If you know Act 250, you can do up to 9 lots in every town. Every landowner can do up to 9 lots without going through Act 250.
so what they presented probably wouldn't change anything in Castleton.
Wouldn't change anything in any town in the state, because that's the
Well,
state law.
No, it has for some, like in Virgins, there was a developer that was building a 9-unit apartment house because that's as big as he could go without Act 250. And with this exemption that Rutland Regional was talking about, he was able to make that a 12-unit and build 3 more of them on the same parcel because he got the exemption from Act 250. I don't think that it would be realistic to think that anybody's going to come to the town of Castleton and build 3 12-unit apartment buildings. You know, there isn't the market for it. So, no, I don't think it would affect us at all. And we haven't voted whether we're going to accept that proposal or not.
And when is that gonna
We have to do that
I think the end of July.
before July end. We have to make that decision as a board, whether we opt in or not.
be? So, and you're gonna have meetings on that so the public can have input?
It will be on the agenda, Charlie.
They still have to come back with the final map, too,
They
right?
have to come back with their final map before we can make our decision, and by all means, yes, we will make sure you guys know about it, the
We
public
made
knows
some
about it.
suggestions to the map, and some they did, and some they said they couldn't. So at the end of the day, you could look at it and say, we can accept it and it won't change anything.
So
'Cause
what happens, what are you gonna do when they bring that map back and you guys decide that you don't wanna follow that, you don't wanna go along with them? What's gonna be the consequences?
there won't be any consequence.
Nothing changes. The only thing that map will do is change, possibly exempting some places from Act 250 when they subdivide. That's the only thing it does. So if we decide not to opt in, nothing changes. We're still going to be under the same rules we are now. But we're getting off topic, so
Well, no, it's all topic, because it's all about taxes. Every bit of that. When you steal somebody's property rights, and the state comes in and says they got a river corridor, and it's the state's land, well, they better compensate the landowner. Or when they go to another place and they change these rules, and one piece of land, one landowner, right side by side is different than the other. That's huge, when the land is the same type of land. And that happened that night when we were all here.
So at this point in time, I guess we have to ask the board if we want to accept Tyler Technologies reappraisal or not, or do we even want to discuss that as a board? Roy, do you have something to add before we move on?
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 things. One, the reappraisal does nothing but make this a town for the rich. That's number 1. Nobody has come to my property to tell me what's going on. I've received no emails, and I don't even know that I'm in the log of those people involved. And number 3, how many reappraisal have people signed up to challenge at this point?
That'd be a question for you, Mike.
Today, when I stopped and talked to Mary Jo about it, she had 45 scheduled. Well, she didn't, well, Tyler is what she threw out there, but they had till today to turn in their grievance forms. So that number could increase.
But did everybody know that today was the deadline to put your grievance in?
That was
I didn't-
well published.
I didn't.
It was sent out,
It's in the yellow pamphlet, that's the only place I
yeah, it was on the website, on Front Porch Forum. We put it on social media in addition to the yellow book. And the forums were put on the website as well.
And we spent $5,000, I think, to mail that book out, to make sure everybody would have it.
Everyone was mailed that book, Charlie.
You know, Tyler Technologies, part of the discussion that we had when we were unhappy with their work was they agreed to publish this book. That was not in the original contract. They had to do that at their expense, which was about $5,000. but the postage was on us, and that's expensive. So but we wanted to make sure everybody had it, because it's important that people have the opportunity to see what their home was appraised at, and if they don't think that's fair, then they should come in and
The
agree.
problem we have is last time you had a reappraisal, there was 250, I believe, that did it, or right around there.
Yeah,
And less than 20% had everything taken off. That's why I've had 50 calls asking me what they should do, and I tell them to grieve, but they tell me it ain't worth it. So.
well, some people are gonna grieve no matter what. Just because you aggrieve it doesn't mean that you are correct. You know, I think that people look at it and try and be fair, do the market comparisons. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. You know, when you sell your house, you want it to be worth a lot. When you're paying taxes on it, you don't want it to be worth a lot. You go over and buy a new truck, you know the shock you have, right? The first new truck you bought was $5,000 and now it's 75. And that's hard, but it's, again, we paid for fair market value, not what would be ethical or what would, you know, fair market value is the requirement, and that's what we got. It's hard to believe a new pickup truck fair market value is $75,000. If you bought a new one last year for $55,000, they'll probably give you more than you paid for it on trade-in. And you go, that's crazy, and it is crazy. But that's what's happened with real estate values, not just in our town, but across the United States.
I would like to, it's my own blame, yes, that I didn't read, but they've got me in for 1 3/4. So I asked him, I say I'm 1.5. And I asked him what made it 3/4, and he said, if you can stand under it, it would make it 3/4. Of course, he was tall, so I said, go stand under it. And he couldn't, but neither can I, and I'm not tall. It is actually 58 inches, because I took a measuring tape to it. And so.
I'm certainly not saying that there were no mistakes made. You know, I'm sure there were.
We specifically talked about this, and he told me this is what was the reason. Well, it wasn't what he said. He didn't change it to 1.5 stories. And we discussed that in particular.
And just think of all the houses in town that got done.
Right?
2000.
The new appraisals are not fair market value. They are inflated market values.
Can I make a statement, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you can.
Because I've been asking questions on this, and that's one of the questions when someone agrees, whether they agree with I don't like the number that's there, or something's missing, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But that's a question that they have to show you if you grieve it and say, how did you come up, show me the market study figures that you use to get to this point. And if they can't explain that, then they're not answering your question. And then, you know, then you could, you know, raise it to a different level. But I've been listening to what's being told to people, and that's one of the things that they said during the grievance, have them show you how they arrived at their figures in the fair market, their market values, their market study. So hopefully people that are out there and see this and hear this, that and they haven't had their grievance yet, that they ask that question. Because if they didn't get into your house and you're grieving something, the only way you're going to get something changed is like through if you appeal and you want to go to the Board of Civil Authority, somebody's going to go into your house to be able to get to that point, the Board of Civil Authority.
And if I recall, Mark, you were on the BCA with me the last reappraisal in 2015. And you and I visited a couple houses together. And some we made some changes on and some we did not, if I recall. I don't recall any details, but I remember we put some effort into making sure that what was done was correct.
And a lot of other factors. I agree that it was at the time of COVID that prices started to accelerate a lot. Personally, I don't think they're ever going to go down. You know, you might see homes that were listed for 750 go to 725. But when you look at the cost of new construction, that's really driving existing home values. You know, $300 to $400 a square foot for new home construction now. It's just inconceivable that, you know, you could spend $600,000 to $800,000 to build a 2 to 3 bedroom ranch house on a piece of property that you own. And when you're all done, it's probably worth 500. You know, the cost of construction is just crazy. Materials are high and there's no builders.
So you and I have talked about this before, and I don't agree with the fact that it's going to continue where it is. Like Charlie says, I think it's going to drop out, and I think we'll be reappraising in 5 years again. But that's my opinion. But what I will say is, I did as well look at the homes that were for sale right now versus the assessed value of those homes. And all the ones that are in contract or contingent right now currently were all sold for $100,000 over what the assessed value is. And I don't know where to fix that because it's across the whole state. It's not just in this town. And I agree 100%. It's going to push the people out that have been living here forever. But I don't know if it's going to push them any different than Orwell or Benson or West Haven. You know, it's hard to compete with money.
Or in Missoula, Montana.
You know, it's tough when somebody comes in and you have a $200,000 house and there's somebody that has $600,000 that says, "Oh, here it is, I'll take that house." So I don't know how you're ever going to cure that.
Short-term rentals is another big driver. You know, you see it all over in all towns. Out-of-state investors buying a piece of property, making it a short-term rental.
It's an income-generating property now.
And they're cash sales. That's kind of alarming. You know, you see young families today that need time to go through an appraisal and an approval process to get pre-approved to buy a house, and cash buyers are taking them first day and make it a short-term rental. And that takes another house out of inventory, takes another young family, keeps them in their apartment. And I don't like it either. You know, you know how it is. When you and I grew up, the neighborhood by Fairhaven High School, you couldn't even drive down those streets because all the kids playing out in the street. Every one of those homes was a single family house that had kids. And now there's no kids. You go by those homes, they're festooned with 4 meter sockets. You know, it's like sucking the lifeblood right out of these neighborhoods.
I know, that's what
I don't disagree with.
I want our community to stay like it is, and I want to make sure, as long as I'm alive, that we do everything we can to help all these people. When I sat on this select board for 8 years, my main goal was, from the first day I got on here, to represent every person, whether they were 1 second old or 110, or older, or younger even. I wanted to make sure that we take care of them so they can have a good life. And that's what I think everybody's goal should be, but the state of Vermont doesn't think that way.
I think that is our goal
We
here.
as people have to change that. We got to change that.
You're absolutely right. The spending that we need to change is at the state level. Because that's really hurting us.
So we're gonna need to wrap this section up and move on. So the question I have is, if we accept or do not accept this reappraisal, how does that change how properties are selling or market, or what the market value of a property is in this town? It does not. Our reappraisal, whether we accept a reappraisal or not, doesn't change what the market's doing.
Absolutely.
So
I personally think you're going to see some of the folks that are in more entry-level homes, we're going to see their taxes stay the same, because some of the bigger homes, there's homes on the lake that were appraised for $300,000 that are worth $750. Some of those saw big jumps. And I'm not saying, hey, we should put all our tax burden on out-of-state people. I'm just saying that it needs to be fair. And
That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand, what you just said, Bill. A lot of people don't understand this second home deal with the taxes. Every piece of property in the town of Castleton or any town in the state of Vermont, your homestead is your house and 2 acres. Anything over 2 acres of land, you're paying non-residential tax on. all of our land, all of our farmland, we pay non-residential tax on it. Some of the land's been in our family since 1865, and we're paying non-residential tax on it. So it's not just the out-of-staters. It's
No, and-
anybody in town that owns more than 2 acres of land in a homestead. We're paying the non-residential tax. But
My
they
point
make
was-
everybody believe that it's only the out-of-staters.
My point was not to say that we should put the tax burden on out-of-staters. It's just that some of those homes have increased in value by 100%, some 200%. And that's gonna ease the tax burden on people in entry-level homes, or at least not hurt them as bad. But I think that we're all saying the same thing, that at the end of the day, it's state spending that's driving our tax increases. I think that this board has tried hard to make sure that we keep our community affordable. We're trying hard to follow the mandates that the state gives us about reappraisal. And we're trying hard to make sure that this reappraisal is fair and shows fair market value, even though none of us like what that fair market value is because it's gone up a lot. But, you know, the solution is we all need to be more involved with our state representatives and our state senators and stop that crazy spending in Montpelier, this huge deficit spending.
Absolutely.
But I think
I hope the
this
board,
is,
though, on that deal with the Velco losing all that revenue, I hope you guys stay on top of that.
we will.
Yeah, I got it.
We don't need to accept anything tonight, right? This is just to get public
The
discussion.
discussion, and I really wanted to hear what Mr. Brown had to say, so I thank you for the effort and the time.
I think everybody should, I wish more people would have showed up.
I do
But
too.
at this point in time, I don't think that we want to take any action at this point,
We might
Charlie.
have one more person that wants to speak, though.
Certainly. Anyone
Charlie, I
else?
always appreciate the level of research that you put into everything before you present it. I respect your opinion a tremendous amount. I know you love this town.
No question about that.
Whether I agree with you or not, I know your thoughts are always well thought out and that you love the community.
Cost me more to feed him than to pay him for work well.
We didn't feed you enough beer.
No, you didn't get any beer.
That you know
Or
of.
Mike.
Anybody else before we move on?
Anybody on Zoom want to ask the board a question?
So we got a couple resolutions to talk about. We'll talk about Resolution 2501 first, and that's the unassigned funds that were driven by ARPA. So this is basically, I think this is identical to what we discussed 2 weeks ago.
Identical.
So I don't know if there's any more discussion from the board on this or not, but I welcome input from the board.
I think all we had to do last time was have Mike write it out for us, and then that was all we were looking for, right?
Yeah, and I compared that to what's here in,
There is a change. I don't want you to believe that there wasn't.
I have one question, but you go first. You may answer it.
On page 2, last, what you were, down to the third one from the bottom, that's the cots and the blankets for the emergency shelter. It was 600 in the previous version, it's 750 on this one. And the dead and dangerous trees, I don't have the other copy with me. I think it went from 2,500 down to 2,000. There was a little, and the 448 that's in there, because the fire department didn't spend all that money that they were authorized, because the cascade system still hasn't been installed in the trailer. And they had a little bit, some items that were over what they originally thought. So it only left them with $448 out of that total amount to spend out of the ARPA funds to get the cascade system plumbed. So the rest of it would come out of their budget. Because they have till July or June 30th of 26 to spend this, the next fiscal year. So, but they don't have enough to do. It was gonna be about, I guess, labor was some of the key on it, but maybe around $1,200 to $1,500 to do that, and they got $448, so the rest would come out of their
So
operation.
they just have
This
to
is
wait.
This is the cascade system they previously had,
Right, in the
just
van.
needs to be replumbed.
Right, they gotta
Okay.
plumb it into the new, trailer.
They just have to wait till the next fiscal year for it.
It's not far away. And that's the only change?
Sorry.
Explain to me the fourth item down on page 1, because when I went through the spreadsheet and compared it to here, I don't understand.
It was so on the spreadsheet, it had 124,000, 500 and, or 62.5. When I just added them together because it was for the, sidewalk project.
South Street as well?
Yeah, it was, hold on, no, I think it was Parsons Hills.
Parsons
what's
Hill
Parsons
account.
Hill?
124 and then 68.5, 124 and 68.5. So I'm on page 2 of the big spreadsheet, and at the very top of the page, there's 7,956 for the highway garage, and then below it was 124 and 168.5. If you add those two together, it's 192.5.
All right, I understand now.
And that project, because that project was completed but paid for after this ARPA funds were moved, that's why it has to be on this resolution to be able to use that surplus. That was I mean, you understand, everybody I believe understands that the surplus was created because of the ARPA. It wasn't that the
Yeah,
town
because
budget had a surplus.
we had to spend it
Right,
before a certain date.
The
The
end of-
projects weren't done then.
right.
You warned us this was coming. You warned
Yeah.
us a couple, 3 times.
Yeah, this is not a surprise, it's
Yeah,
just one more thing that our
That's why we
accountants
moved
have
the
to
money
do
to
to keep the
begin with.
federal government happy.
That's the only way to
Now we
legally
just need to
do it.
move it back.
Yep.
So you're just using the surplus that was created by what you authorized in ARPA
To pay for the
to pay for the
projects.
stuff that you were already paying, you already approved to pay for.
So any more discussion on resolution 2501?
I have just one comment again. If you look at the very bottom of that one.
On page 2?
On page 2, it's the, it's a carryover from a previous assignment, that the work, when, we've been chasing after that electrical, for the pavilion for 2 years almost.
You're
since this- I'm on page 2. Oh, I'm sorry. No,
You're on the wrong
I was
resolution.
on 2502.
You're on the wrong resolution.
Yeah, I was.
So
So you're
any
good,
more
that's it.
discussion on resolution 2501?
No, I don't have anything to add to it.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 25-01, assignment of unassigned general funds.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion on resolution 2501? All in favor?
Aye.
2502,
If you.
discussion?
You can use mine to circulate for signatures.
Oh, that's right, I don't have a blue folder.
No, I have it here, and that's not in there.
These two things were not in my bag. This or the resolution?
Here, you can look at that.
Because the resolutions were tucked inside of this,
I don't have this either.
all right? Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Maybe nobody
I'm
else had
sitting
two,
here
did they?
kind of, what are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Lee, I
You want-
had no
here-
idea you
here,
didn't
give
have
her
that
my
with you.
copies.
You want to give her?
Yeah, that way she has them for,
Mary Lee.
Here. And then, if you could sign the resolution, and then we'll pass it back around. Now, we're gonna have discussion on resolution 2502.
that I just gave to Mary Lee.
You don't have a copy of that to
He
sign
does
anymore?
now.
What's that?
Do you have a copy of that to circulate for signature?
I think I gave it all.
All right, well, we'll circulate mine when we get done. So, do you have comments on 2502, Mike?
I do. So I talked to the auditors last week, I talked to Joe, where we stood at the end of last fiscal year. and where we think we're gonna land this fiscal year. Because the concern that I had was the select board, I would assume, would want to use some of the budget surplus to let it pay down the tax rate, for I'll use the term that. And by putting this in here contingent upon the surpluses, it at least still leaves quite a bit of money in there. I can't give you a penny to the penny right now. For these items that are on here, and if you look at the first one, it goes back to what was on the agenda for the speed displays and the light bar. Because, well, no, which was the first one?
Second item down.
Yeah, the second one down was purchase of programmable installation and maintenance of the 2 speed displays and for a new light bar for a police vehicle. We've seen the increase in the cost of a cruiser keep going up and up. So Justin approached me about it and said if there was money in here that we could purchase the light bar so when they get the new cruiser that they have it. It'll probably go up in cost if we waited 6 months from now, or because they're going to be coming back to the board shortly about the new cruiser. And because it adds $3,000, who would have thought a light bar cost $3,000? But that's what they are today. Well, with those LEDs and all the fancy crap that's on them, there's no more blue bubble on top of the state police cars. That they want to be able to use the money that's already been appropriated by the voters to be able to get that, so it's not passed on later.
The light bars that are on the old cars aren't capable of being swapped over.
They tear all the wiring and everything out of it. It costs.
By the time labor.
Yeah, they did that analysis for us a couple years ago, and by the time you subtract all that labor out and stuff like that, it's eating up half of or more of the cost of the light bar.
So these, just so everyone knows, this resolution, any one of these items will not be valid if there is no surplus in that line item. So for instance, the Highfield Field, if there's not a budget surplus of $1,500 from last year's budget, from the fiscal year we're currently in, then that line item will not be valid. It can't be done.
There's no money for it.
There's no money for it.
But that's a totally true statement, but also that money's in there right now. I've already looked at the budget. It's just we can't get the work done and do this before June 30th.
But we can't do anything until it's been audited, is where I was going with that.
It's not adding to the budget. It's just moving the money from this year's budget because we can't get it done before June 30th.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm also saying that, then it has to be audited. before-
Yep.
Same with Dewey Field. That was the same thing. I met with Lee Jamison this weekend about some of the upgrades that's needed down there in the field. Now that the board's approved the resolution that had the playground equipment in it, there's still work to be done to prep the area where it's going to go. We got to remove the old stuff. So Lee and I we've agreed to meet down there and do some work on our own. I'll just bring down the backhoe and we can get rid of some stuff. But there's trees to cut down. Those old pine trees that are falling, pieces are falling out of it. A piece fell off and broke part of the fence. So it's just, they're dangerous, and we dropped one ourselves, and we spent days picking up the mess, and our chipper's down. It's that Champlain Valley to get fixed. We don't have that right now. But
All right, so I'm going to cut you off, Mike. What's the board's pleasure here? Do we have is anyone prepared to make a motion?
Make a motion that we approve resolution number 25.02, assignment of unassigned general funds.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Any more discussion on resolution 2502? All in favor?
Aye.
You want me to, you got a copy, Bob?
I just threw in the one I had.
That came from me. You didn't have it.
You got my green pen, Bob?
I do have a green pen, but I don't think it belongs to you. I hope that's okay to sign these with.
I don't think the legal beagles care what color you
No,
use.
they don't care? Okay. As long as I don't use red. Red's not
Although in
good.
the military, you had to use black.
Had to be, yeah. I like to be different. Is that what it was? Or is? Yeah.
Send that over to Mark.
Okay, there you go, Mr. Brown.
So let's talk about reappointments for the DRB. So we have two people that, their term expires on June 30th of this year, that want to be reappointed. Is that correct, Mike?
For the DRB,
We have 3, it looks like.
For the DRB?
Yep, Pat Keller, Laura Sargent, and John Alexander.
I know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at Planning Commission. Yeah, you're right, there are 3 for the DRB.
Christine reached out to everybody, and she wasn't in today, so I don't know if she got a response from everybody. Like, I don't know if John Alexander responded to her, but she did send him a message. Laura was good, and I'm not sure about Pat Keller either. To say today.
Well, we can reappoint them and they can always decline the reappointment.
Exactly, yeah.
It would make a motion to appoint John Alexander, Laura Sargent. Can I do all 3 at once, or do I have to
As
do
long
them?
as you specify the terms.
I would make a motion to appoint Patrick Keller and John Alexander for a 3-year term for the DRB, or 1-year term, sorry, and Laura Sargent for a 2-year term.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the DRB appointments. Any discussion?
Should they put the date when they expire?
Well-
Not necessary.
I don't think it's
Okay.
necessary.
Okay.
We've got the term.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Planning Commission.
Mike, you're still advertising for that vacant position?
Yes, we put out advertisements on social media, a website, and
Are people knocking down the door to get put on them boards, or?
no, they are. No,
I figure you're gonna come with a big list for us to review.
no.
Planning
No.
Commission. These 2 people also are willing to serve again?
I was told yes for both them.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Michael Skovner to the Planning Commission for a 2-year term and Frank Johnson to the Planning Commission for a 1-year term.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Other than the dates aren't right. If it's a 2-year term, it expires in,
Both their terms expire this month.
okay. So it doesn't say when, okay,
We'll change the date to 27
Yep,
for
yep, yep.
Mike and.
okay. Okay, sorry.
This is an Excel spreadsheet. You just change the dates, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So let's talk about DRB membership. Mary Lee did
Do
some
we have to
research.
do
for
any
us.
of the Recreation Commission?
Not tonight.
We
Only
got some
thing-
that expire June 30th, 2025.
Well, they're in there. Who expires?
Nancy Parker.
Parker.
We got Eric Pulver, Josh Ferguson, says both of those are June 30th.
Well, those are just ads. You guys just appointed them.
Okay.
So we just have to update the spreadsheet.
Okay.
And
I think we did 2 and 3 years for those 2.
What about Nancy Parker?
I talked to Martha and asked her if Nancy was still on, and she said yes. But we did not talk about reappointing. Because that wasn't why I was asking her about it, so I didn't ask her that question at the time.
So we don't know if she wants to be reappointed or not.
Correct. I can, well, if you just keep talking or singing and dancing, I'll see if Martha can
Well,
answer.
okay, then in the
reappoint her.
meantime, let's talk about the DRB membership. We now know for sure that the select board has the option to appoint anywhere from 5 to 9 members, but we have to designate how many members are appointed. And at this point in time, we do not know for sure if we actually did this correctly when we increased the DRB from 5 to 9 members. So we're gonna find that out, and then at some point in time, we'll have to have a special meeting. We can't do it at a regular meeting, but we can have a special meeting just prior to a select board meeting to adjust the quantity of the DRB membership if we elect to do so. So the first thing we're gonna do is Mary Lee and I are gonna work on figuring out just what we did do specifically, so that we know exactly what we did do, so if we have to change something, we know exactly what we need to change. Because I think we're all agreed that the 9-member DRB is not a viable option at this point. So that's where we're going with that, is we're gonna try to find out just what we did do. Now, Mary Lee, do you have anything to add? I think I've stated it pretty accurately.
Did fine.
Okay, so we're gonna
Well,
figure
let's
out what it is we did.
Yeah, that was before I was on the board, so that gives
Yes.
you a little direction as to
It's
when.
gotta be more than 2 years ago then.
Yeah, and I'll help you. We'll figure out how to search the minutes and figure out just what we did do and when we did it, and then figure out what we have to do to make it right. Charlie, you had,
Yeah, so you actually are thinking about going to a 9-member DRB board?
well, we actually increased, we had a 5-member board, and at one point in time, we had a lot of interest in the DRB, and we added more members. What we don't know is, did the select board actually vote to add more members, or did we just do it? And we're trying to figure out,
Well, the reason the DRB board was created to begin with was not to have, originally the planning commission had 9 members and the zoning board had 5. So what they were trying to do, well, that happened when I was on the board, we decided that we didn't want 9 people traipsing into people's houses and had to go to a permit. So we cut it back to 5. And we cut the planning commission back to 7 as the people's terms went away. We didn't eliminate them, we just waited until their terms got done and we didn't reappoint them. Because back then, we decided that having 9 people traipse into your house to tell you if you could build something on your own land, we didn't think was right. And that's why the DRB board was created from the zoning board, and we stayed with 5 members instead of having a bunch of them. Because the planning commission used to do a lot of what the DRB board was doing. The DRB board kind of took the place of both of them, as only the members that are in the planning commission.
so at this point, we're gonna probably wind up with a 5-member board for each.
It'll be a good thing.
And then, Mary Lee found, Title 24 is pretty clear on how we have to go about doing that. So we gotta figure out just what this board did do a few years ago, and I don't remember off the top of my head. I gotta go look at the minutes and find out what we did. And then we'll come up with a course of action to rectify it and undo it and make it what we really want now. Does that all make sense?
Makes sense.
But, once again, I don't pretend, Mary Lee, I won't pretend to recall off the top of my head what we did 3 years ago.
Mike, did we get anything back from Martha yet?
I didn't hear it go off, so.
I think unfortunately, oftentimes these boards go up and down in numbers because you're trying to get the desired results.
But I think what we'll do in the future, unless, subsequent boards can do what they feel is right, later, 5 years down the road or whatever. But at this particular go-around, if we have more interest than we have spots, we may consider appointing alternates. So that, if you've got a 5-member board and 3 alternates, and 2 of the regular members can't get there, but 2 of the alternates can, you still have 5 members present. So that might be a viable option, but
That's the way it was set up, 5
Yeah.
members with 2 alternates, if you can find them.
I'm pretty
I think you
confident
see
that's,
Point in time where, I'm not saying in this community, but you see a point where, hey, the select board doesn't really like the direction the planning commission's going as a 5-member board, so they make it a 9-member board and get 4 new people. We've seen that, that almost happened with our Supreme Court. We don't like the direction they're going, let's put 6 more justices on there and then it'll go our way. And we want to be careful that we don't do that.
so that's the direction we're heading, Charlie. So let's move.
I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Nancy Parker for a 3-year term on the rec commission, and if she doesn't like it, she can, decline it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
So let's move on to,
We gotta change one more thing. We don't have a zoning administrator. We have to change the wording.
Administrative officer.
Got that, Mike? But we don't have to make a motion on that. So let's talk about tax sewer revenue update and tax sale concerns. Mike, you're up.
I'm just trying to find zoning administrator here. So you have a copy of end of May property tax and sewer collections. Again, we're still processing payments, and there's, a lot at the end of the fiscal year that is not in here, so I just wanted to make sure you guys had the copy. I don't have anything really to talk about on it. But you'll have the version once we reconcile June. You'll have a next meeting, likely that you'll have the one for, or not next meeting, first meeting in July. You'd have them reconcile for June. We have to shoot for June 10th is our date to get everything cleared and for the audit. So the meeting's after that, so we should have that for you for that meeting, and I think it's 14th of July.
These numbers don't look anything unusual.
Especially for the last quarter of the year.
Yeah.
But on the agenda, it says tax sale concerns as well, and I've been approached by one individual that was on that 5-person tax sale list, and I met with him today, actually, and sat there for, we were there for at least 35-40 minutes. Explained to me their situation and asked me if there's anything I can do to help them out, because they were under an agreement to pay. They paid the interest and stuff that they needed to, and then they didn't pay a payment after that. So so it's like $17,000 they owe, and it's just getting worse. It's not, their situation is not getting better. So I mean, I'm empathetic or sympathetic, but the person's situation is not getting better, and the money that they owe in taxes and sewer, no, just taxes, isn't getting any better either. And I'm at this point where I'm like, God, I understand. I feel bad for the person. I mean, I can feel the pain, and I'm like, well, what do I do? Because I'm following the policies that the select board put in place, and I don't know where to draw that line. Where do I say you pay up the interest and penalties up to date, get on that, and we enter back into extend the agreement with a lesser amount that they can afford. They agreed to an amount to appease in their last time, but they can't afford it. That came out, that was said to me today. We did it because we got you off our back, basically, but we couldn't afford it. And heating season came along, and heating the house became more important than paying the taxes. So I don't know if their life situation is going to improve anytime soon, and we know that their tax situation is not going to improve because they're not paying.
If you were to put them on a lower payment plan, how long would that stretch it out until they get caught up?
Well, that's up to us, and looking at the tax sale policy, but I recommended I said, go home, talk to your significant other. Can you, if we spread it over a 3-year period, it's going to reduce as long as they pay their interest and penalties up to date, because that's just going to keep compounding and cause problems. So I told him to get back with me. He's going to grieve his assessment tomorrow, and I said, focus on that first, get that out of the way, and then come back and talk to me after you've talked to your significant other, and we can have a conversation. But it was a 2-year period, and the payment was too much. But if we go another 12 months and make it 3 years, it's just, I don't know if he's going to make it. He says that he's going to work off the numbers and see if they can do it in a 3-year period. I wouldn't want to go past 3 years. I mean, the problems just keep compounding.
Yeah, because he has to pay the current year's taxes too, on top of the back taxes. Oh, boy.
And
That's pretty tough. I mean, when somebody doesn't pay their taxes, it means that everybody else in town shoulders that responsibility, but we certainly don't want to see someone lose their home.
No. I did tell him, I confirmed with him that if it went to tax sale, he'd have a year to pay it, because he didn't think that was still true, and I said, no, it's accurate, so.
But then they gotta pay an interest percentage to whoever buys it at tax sale, correct? So it just buries
I would
them
make a
even more.
motion that we authorize the town manager to negotiate up to 3 years. See if we can.
We really need to make that motion. I believe Mike has the authority as
Oh,
tax
okay.
collector.
No, I don't think you need a motion on it, but I haven't been approached by anyone else at this point. But if that's what we're gonna do, is to try to keep people in their homes without losing them, other people are gonna say, I pay my taxes on time, so you just gotta be cognizant of, I guess, what Pandora's box we open, but I don't wanna see anybody lose their home. I really don't.
We don't either. I'm not envious of the spot you're in, Mike, because,
And I know these people, it's,
Well, there are,
most
like,
of the people I know, and I know their situation.
their friends, neighbors, community members,
I
people we
would hope
see
that people.
every day.
Yeah, I would hope that everyone in the community would have enough compassion to understand and not go, well, I pay my taxes on town, they should be evicted.
I think it's with a great deal of empathy I'm hearing what you had to say, but, and if you want to talk offline sometime and do a little venting, and maybe I can help you figure something out, but I certainly don't want to bring that, up in public at this point in time.
It's tough, if you ever had an injury and that caused something in your life where you lost your job or you couldn't do your job and everything's on the line, you'd be pleading for your life too.
Absolutely.
We all would.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do what you gotta do, Mike.
So let's discuss the setting of the tax rate, which typically happens in a perfect world, it happens the first week or the first meeting in July. Is that
Probably not
still?
this year. So we're probably looking at the second meeting in July at this point.
And we're also typically waiting for the state to set the education rate, if I recall.
We don't have that yet either, so. So I just think I'm just putting it out there and guessing that we might not have that to the nth hour. That's usually how it happens. And to get it all pulled together before the first meeting in July is probably unrealistic. But we've done it in the past in the second meeting in July anyway, so it's really not gonna probably affect too much.
Because they can't generate tax bills till the tax rate's set. And tax bills go out in early August, is that correct?
I guess you better get going then.
It's all done. I'm just joking. No, I think this is more realistic for the second meeting. If we can get it done by the first meeting, we'll do it, but I'm just not seeing it. Because I think by the time these grievances are done and the appeals won't matter. If they appeal to the Board of Civil Authority, that's not gonna matter. It's just that if they abate something at that point, the rest of the town absorbs whatever gets abated, that's all.
Let's do something easier. The Castleton Women's Club would like to use the town green.
I make a motion that we allow Castleton Women's Club to use the green for their Castleton Days?
Yep.
Colonial Historic,
Colonial Historic House Tours and whatever else they have to do.
On August 16th.
Yes.
You know this group, Mary Lee, they're not a rough bunch.
I don't know, you better watch them.
Well, they promised to clean up the green, and I believe them.
I'll second it. If they're gonna pick up after themselves, then I'll see what the problem is.
Marty even said that, they were gonna pick up after themselves, and I believe her. All in favor? Aye. That was easier. Manager's report, this could be
we don't have
easy.
one. But if anybody has any questions about any of the projects that are normally on there, I can try to answer them.
How's our equipment doing in general?
TNT, our equipment's good, so we sent the excavator to Champlain Valley for the wrist. Evan, because you have to tap into hydraulics, Evan's like, I'm just not comfortable with that. So that's there, and the wood chipper's there for a diagnosis on that. TNT still has not got the parts from Viking Surveys for that 6500, so that's still pending. Other than that, everything's up and running. The wastewater truck is all they're using. It's all outfitted. It's all decaled, and Evan has the one from the sewer plant using it, and that the crane that's on it, the sewer plant wants it back and permanently put it down at the main pump station, so it's there, and Evan didn't have any problems with that, so for now anyway.
So highway has to pay sewer.
Well, yeah, because the sewer's an enterprise. Now you can gift it if you want.
I think you better ask the sewer users if they want to gift it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd gift it.
Yeah, I think there should be some, to keep it all clean, there's gotta be some exchange of money.
If it's not broke, let's not fix it.
Well, I looked at the sewer budget, with all the repairs that had to be made to Route 30 and the operating budget, and I'm like, almost fell over. I'm like, we absorbed a lot of that. So it was like, I think we absorbed all but like $27,000 of that. So that's, and then I gave you the draft sewer budget for going in there, and like, it raises the rate like $9, I think it was. It really was gonna be no raise, but I made an error in the spreadsheet for the loan payments. When I corrected it, it went from nothing to $9. And that's $9 paying, that's $9 increase for all the maintenance that we had to do, plus a $2.5 million sewer upgrade. So I guess that wasn't too bad.
Not too bad.
Since we're talking about sewer, I know it's not a sewer commissioners meeting, but I want to make sure that we stay on top of the repairs that we need to get done for the extra water running in.
Rural water's gonna be here this week, or 26, I'm sorry. I think it's the 26th.
We gotta get on top of them.
One thing that I brought up a year
Can you see
ago
those back?
was the fire hydrant that's actually on the corner of my property. You can't even see it because of the hay around it. And
It's on your property, then there's no reason why you
Stop
can't
it.
cut the hay around it.
No.
You must own a weed whacker, don't you?
fire district brought one of those cones. Well, it's down in the ditch. You can't see that either. I don't think the mower would hit it anyway, but it might be nice if somebody mowed around it.
I did pass it on to the fire district, and they were gonna go up and take
Yeah.
care of it, so.
Yeah, they didn't though.
Okay, well, I will follow up with them again.
Mike, I went out to the town garage to look at the new truck.
Two of them are on the list and two are not, but we should do it
Showed me
for
that they hadn't got the correct parts for the summer shoot. Do you know if that's been resolved?
I do not. For the new tandem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
There were parts that didn't work, and I said, I've got the salesman's number right on my cell phone, I'll call him right now. And he wasn't really familiar with it, and he said, said, the parts here, I don't see any way that they're gonna fit together. And he said, I'll make sure the parts department emails you a schematic, and he didn't. And then Mike was unhappy that that truck has a 11-foot wing, and that's, all the other trucks are 10 or 9.
And it's gonna hang way over the center line.
And I said, let me see, maybe we can swap that. And I asked the salesman that, and he said, well, you could, but then the geometry isn't right. And I can't, I know he's an expert, but I can't, I'm not smart enough to see how that would be affected. He said, you're gonna end up breaking the knuckles if you do that. And
I'll follow up and see.
I know that if you take a foot off it, you're really only taking 6 inches off because it's at a 45-degree angle. But, you know, I know Mike is a really dedicated guy and he works really hard up there, and I just thought that that's gonna be his truck, and he was concerned about those things, and I just wanna make sure that he's listened to.
Yeah, this first I've heard of it, Mark, so I will follow up on it though. I mean, nobody's mentioned the summer shoot parts not being correct, and Mike Smith did tell me that the blade was longer, and he said better start ordering some mailboxes ahead of time. But he didn't, that was the extent of it. So I will follow up on it.
That's why I was just passing it on to you.
Yep, no, I
Not a
appreciate
big
it.
deal, but.
You saw that the salt shed's complete. It was paved today. I sent photos around. So we got some more work to do on the electrical. I had asked, I had met with Evan and Jeff about grading for the apron, because we got that 3 acres of impervious surface permit we gotta worry about, and I don't wanna make the stormwater problem any worse than by doing something incorrectly. So, he was gonna meet with Brad Fabian and get some advice from him on how to pitch that around so the water goes to where we want it to go and can treat it, because that permit requires it. So there's no, doing something that's counter to the permit doesn't make any sense. So, and it just, Evan and Jeff just were not comfortable figuring that out. So, but the thing is done. They're gonna start moving salt out of Ruby's shed, now that it's been paved.
Is there a lot out there still?
I was told originally that there was probably around 150 to 200 tons. We normally get 1,000 for the winter. That building that we just constructed will hold all 1,000.
Will hold how much, 1,000?
Yeah, 1,000 tons. It's a little bit bigger than Ruby's by, it's 6 feet wider, but the same length, depth. So we'll be able, we should get everything in there, no problem.
Nice.
So thank you for the board for being patient on that one. That was a long, arduous process to not use the grant, because in the long run it was going to cost us just as much money, and it wouldn't have been built to 2028. So, I mean, literally we're 3 years ahead of schedule at this point.
Perfect. And our out-of-pocket was no more. So are you ready to move on to purchase orders?
Yeah, unless you have questions.
Board ready?
Ready.
Purchase orders it is. So we have 4 tonight, not just the 2 that are on your list. There's 2 others that'll be pretty self-explanatory when somebody mentions them. I am going to recuse myself from the one for BFIS.
I would make a motion to approve purchase order number 054754 to Island Tech Services. That is for 1 light bar for future cruiser for the sum of $3,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Where is that?
It's not on the list. There's 2 that are not on the list.
You said that already, right?
Yes,
Okay,
that's one of them.
Resolution.
okay,
It was within the resolution.
okay.
Did you guys have a copy of in your box, or in your packet? There was one for the light bar.
I didn't see it.
No, they were not on the list, and they were not in our packet, but we're gonna take action on them anyways.
Because I think the one for the 2 speed displays should have been in your packet. It was a 1-page thing.
Yeah, that was in
Yeah,
there.
that was.
That's in here. And I thought Pete was gonna hang out and talk about that. No? Did I not hear that right?
We did briefly talk about it. and
Yeah,
we
but I
told
thought he
him-
was gonna, it would be later on in the meeting, is what I heard.
No, I
Said
told
that
him,
he would know by the end of the meeting if it was approved.
In the resolution.
Oh, okay.
because we had to approve the resolution and we had to approve the purchase order.
Okay.
Would make a motion to approve, do we vote on that?
No, we didn't vote on it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Would make a motion to approve purchase order number 053234 to Elon City for the sum of $7,000 for 2 radar speed signs.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any
Where's that money
discussion?
coming from?
That was on the constables,
It's not
15,000.
part of the resolution for the constable budget.
And the price went up since the last 3. You purchased 3 for $9,000, but that was through a grant program, or a special program they had, so we should have bought all 5 at one time.
We didn't have the money for the other 2 though,
I
so
didn't really
now we
know
do.
that, so, yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Would make a motion to approve purchase order number 054100 to Tom Hughes for the sum of $2,432.46, and that's reimbursement for expenses incurred with the Ethan Allen Day celebration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I just ask what VFIS is before?
It's a retirement package for the fire department. I don't know if I should recuse myself or not, because it's gonna happen anyways.
And you don't get any special
Well, I'm
benefit
getting-
anybody else would.
No, I'm getting the retirement now because I'm an old guy.
I'm a recipient of $25 a month or something like that.
Yeah. So I guess there's really no point in me recusing myself, is it? Because it doesn't really matter.
Would make a motion to approve purchase order number 054114 to VFIS, care of M&T Bank, for the sum of $35,587.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead with the warrants.
Make a motion to approve warrant number 0623R for the sum of $2,400. Warrant number 0619 for the sum of $52,151.46. Warrant number 0623 for the sum of $126,134.45. Warrant number 0612P for the sum of $22,075.25, and warrant number 0618P for the sum of $22,761.35.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the warrants. Any discussion?
Yes. I think he said the wrong amount on the first one.
$2,400.
I thought you said $22,400.
No, I heard 2,400.
That's what I heard too. Tried to do it differently at the beginning.
Yeah, I had to catch myself.
Okay.
You got it right.
I was shocked that it was so small after spending like a couple $1 million last meeting, I think.
Happy school. We're not doing too bad. We're actually on schedule. Of course, there's one executive session that's gonna be ugly.
I heard. No 11:30 though, please. No 11:30.
You're driving that bus, buddy. That's what you do.
Literally at 6:30 tomorrow morning, Philadelphia.
That's only 7 hours.
Yeah, I know. I can do it quicker than that.
I used to drive that almost every weekend.
Yeah,
I was in the Navy, my first ship was in the yards in Philly, and I used to come home.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly where I gotta go. Go to the airport right there.
Had some sweet young thing in Granville I had to get home to.
Oh.
You know how that works.
Yeah. So you did it like
So-
in 5.5.
No.
Yes,
That
you
was
did.
No, because that was back when the speed limit was 55.
Oh.
It was 1976.
You can do 70 now.
Yeah, Mark, my retirement on the fire department's more than yours.
Yeah, you've been there, you and I joined the same time. And I think I stayed 12 years. You've got to be 20,
26 now.
yeah.
They're still not gonna do anything more than buy some groceries, but that's okay.
Is that Mark?
Well, that's a lot of dedication, Dick. I appreciate it.
Won't buy many groceries. I went to buy a few things and went out with $160.
Well, I'm amazed at how much stronger I am now. I can carry $300 worth of groceries in one trip, no problem.
Yeah.
You used to take more than 3 trips. Of course, it's only 2 bags.
Yeah.
Well, or no, it's
If
not
that.
quite, but you know what I mean.
Very expensive.
Especially if you got meat in there.
Yeah, we get our meat from the grocery store where no animals were harmed.
Yeah.
I heard that from someone once, and I was they believed it. Well, the animals weren't harmed in the grocery store, that's for sure. Okay, select board comments. Mary Lee,
I'm fine.
Rob,
Got everything out earlier.
Mark,
I'm good.
Bob.
I'm good.
So am I. Action items. Do we have anything that we need to remind ourselves to do? I think all the to-do things went to Mike, and he's got a list.
Sounds like the big one right now is the one about the utilities and how that might impact the
Taxes.
Velco or Velco paying us the town, for utilities and stuff like that. And I was told it was gonna affect solar too, so.
I'm going to back up simply because the select board and the sewer commissioners, board of sewer commissioners are the same individuals, and give you a heads up that Mr. Steele gave me an excellent suggestion for funding new sewer projects, and I'm going to forward that to Christine with your permission and have her put the other 3 board members into that loop, so that you know what he's proposing. I think it's a good suggestion, because we will have to have a sewer commissioner meeting at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And that's one of the things that we need to decide on. So I think it would be wise to let all the other members see that ahead of time, don't you?
Correct.
So let's do that. So I don't think we'll just disseminate the information without making any decisions or having discussion is the right thing to do, so we're gonna do that. So I'll send it to Christine and she can forward it to the other board members. Anything else?
Can I back up to selectmen concerns?
Yes.
So I know in the new UDR, there's language about how long a person can stay in a travel trailer. And I believe that was designed so if your cousin's visiting, they can park their camper in your yard and stay for a few weeks. Is there language currently that prohibits people from staying in camping trailers longer than that?
Yes.
Yes, they're required to get the permission of the DRB to stay for any period longer than 2 weeks, correct?
And if somebody was violating that, who would investigate it?
Health officer?
So we've had the zoning administrator and the health officer, depending on the situation. If it's just a violation, it's the zoning. If it's any other concerns that are related with it, like they're living in unsanitary conditions or something like that, the health officer gets involved. And so the last one that we've been dealing with, it's been both of them. But the letter, there has been no letter sent to them saying they're in violation because the health officer was working with the parents of the people that were in the trailer, in the travel trailer, to see what they could do to help. And we were told that they were actually they were going to be moving to another town, which the zoning administrator thought that the kids are getting the same conditions that they're in now, just moving to a different town, and wanted to make sure we followed up on that. But right now, there's been no letter sent to them for a violation, but that's the ultimate, is they'd get a letter saying they're violating the zoning. Is there more than one?
There's a couple that I've noticed.
Because we just found out about another one, and while I was talking, I was trying to recall where that was. But we just got, last week, she told me about another one, remember, the zoning administrator.
I've been curious about one on West Creek Road.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Is that up past where Tommy Dorn used to live?
Yes.
Yeah, so I talked to her about that one. We're gonna go there with the police.
Because that's gated off.
Yeah, and the people can't get through there. I got a resident that said, I have property up there and I have access through this, I can't get to it. So we were told that there's been run-ins with it in the past, so we're just gonna bring the police with us.
I know the cars have been there since the snow's been off the ground, so whatever septic they have is,
Well, there's no septic. We know that.
okay.
So talk to Jim about it, because it's health, for the health violation,
And how about across the road?
and here, maybe that's right, yes, that was the one I was told, I couldn't remember where it was at, yes,
Okay.
it's that one.
Well, those are the ones I was thinking about.
Yeah, and then we got one more on Route 4A, down by, the old creamy stack, what's the guy's name that used to live out there, passed away? Austin, yeah. 40?
Yep.
It's on that road. So, but yes, we just found out about that one, we know about that up there, but we're gonna take the police with us, and unfortunately, because Karen's only here 2 days a week, it's been hard to pin her down, because she's dealing with appointments with people to get their permits and stuff like that, so. And if people have noticed, it's posted for Tuesdays and Thursdays, but with her full-time job at Dartmouth, that she's been doing a lot of Fridays and Saturdays to accommodate people, that she just can't keep the regular office hours. So she tells us ahead of time, we try to get the word out, but she's been doing a good job, so it's can't help. Her main source of paying the bills is her job at Dartmouth.
Is it the same thing?
You know, she's an engineer.
Oh, no
She's a
kidding.
mechanical engineer.
The only other thing we gotta remember, next week we have another meeting, next Monday, on the UER.
No, that's when the UDR edits need to be complete by July 1. Is that still on track?
It is. So July 1 to be in the paper, posted officially by the 5th.
15.
And then there's 15 days from
So we
there.
have the 3 next
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, we're gonna have a meeting for the UDR on the 20-something. I'd have to look it up.
It's 15 days from the 5th, so like 21st.
We must have a meeting next Monday for something, right?
I do not believe so.
Stop! Why do you gotta be that way?
Because it just seems to be the way that it
Short-term
is.
rentals.
Rob's job. No, we do not have a
Dock
meeting on the
spaces at the-
7th. We have a meeting on the 21st for the UDR. We have a regularly scheduled meetings on the 14th and 28th. And on the 14th, we're gonna have a sewer commissioners meeting as well.
Isn't the 17th, did you say the 17th
No,
for the,
Crystal Haven
Crystal
is one
Haven
of
one?
them.
was that meant to be on the 14th or was it
that was meant to
17th?
be on the 14th.
Okay.
We were prognosticating a long time ago, and we wanted to do it the first select board meeting in July, and somebody threw out the 17th, so that's what stuck, but that's not correct. It's gonna be the 14th. That's when we talk about the Castleton, or the Crystal Haven Loop Road, whether or not it stays open all year or not. Okay, action items are complete. Executive session.
I would like to meet with the board for personnel and contracts.
So the new method for going into executive session is,
Didn't I send it to you?
you did, but I wasn't smart enough to print it out and bring it with me.
Well, I have it on my phone, so I can share that with
But
you.
we find, we have to make two motions now. Good night.
Good night.
We have to make two motions now. One that says that we find the reason for going into executive session because it would put us at a disadvantage, et cetera. I don't remember the
Gotta
right
say all that,
language.
yeah.
And then the second motion is to go into executive session. Somehow the state managed to make it more complicated. Imagine that.
Surprise!
Do we have to pay for it?
Unfunded mandate.
I mean, not now, but it will be.
It only cost us words, Mark, so this time around it's relatively inexpensive.
Glad for that.
A little more ink on the minutes, but other than that,
No one's made the motion yet.
we don't.
We don't know how to make it, so go for
Well,
it.
if we do it the old-fashioned way, will anyone take us to court, Mike?
Anybody could take you to court, but, I'm trying to see where I sent it to you.
It was about 2 weeks ago.
It was after that, Rutland, when was the date of the, Rutland County Solid Waste District meeting?
That was the same night as the night you had a meeting and you had to be back here. When did you guys meet the last time? Was that the 17th of this month? You met for the UDR. You should know that when that date is.
If I look on my calendar, if I can find it.
I think it was
Let's
this.
just do it the old-fashioned way, and
Could
if
put
they,
the town at a disadvantage.
You have it there, Rob?
No, but I remember seeing something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it.
Huh, I'm trying to find, Ethan Pepin sent it to me. And I thought I forwarded it to you, Dick, and I can't find it in either one.
It was on a Thursday night.
VLCT originally put it out.
It might have been on a Tuesday.
Martha got back to me and said she's left a message for Nancy Parker. She hasn't got back to her. I'm not seeing this thing. Sorry.
Well, send her a congratulations email real quick.
I just picked up on that.
I know I didn't delete it.
Wearing that shirt, I can understand you being a little slow.
Really?
Yep. They lost 6 in a row now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been ugly.
I got it right here, I think. What is the nature of the business that we need to go into executive session for?
Personnel.
Yeah, there's two motions. Why can't I find it?
We gotta find that quick. We're gonna have to make a motion to go to the men's room.
I'm going first.
Please go to the ladies' room,
just
not the
have,
men's room.
Cindy
There's
check
only
it for
one
you.
there.
I can unlock the door to the other one too, Mark. And I'll race you for it. No, that wouldn't be fair. You'd beat me.
Oh, I don't think he
I know you
texted
can run
me
faster
yet.
than I
He's
can,
closer to it too, right now.
but I got the combination to the door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's gonna trump it.
Let's just move on.
Just do it.
I got it right here. I emailed it to you, Dick. I didn't text it to you. But I have it right here if you want to read it. Keep moving the screen around because it's going to freeze up.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the personnel matter at hand would put the board at a substantial disadvantage because of the sensitive nature of the personnel situation. You can say
Yeah,
so
what
moved.
Dick said.
You can say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, we need to
better
move to
run.
go into executive session.
So now what we need
I got
is...
it. Well, no, there's a second motion though. You got to read down to the second one. Mary Lee, you can't go anywhere yet.
I thought you couldn't do the other.
I move that we enter into executive discussion, this executive session to discuss personnel under the matter under the provisions of Title I, Section 313 of Vermont statutes. So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.